Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star episode number 401 based on novel. So let's start. The moment Duandong River gave this order, all the great beings from the 3 reincarnation eras and 2 holy lands gathered in the life and death corridor felt a tremble in their hearts. Other than the Hong Alliance, all the other great beings felt an upset of anxiety, rage, reluctance, and many other emotions. Long years spent studying had brought them to a belief that the mere additional 1 to 2 years of studying was not much of an advantage. Thus, Luo Feng would not constitute much of a threat. What they had not expected was that the first to reach the basic requirement would be Luo Feng. The great beings were all full of rage and anxiety. Big trouble. This is a terrible situation. That loathsome human. Detestable. Teacher Origin has ordered us to seize that inheritance at all cost. The Universe Masters from Purple Moon Holy Land were transmitting voices to one another, and Dear Bug Master wore a deep frown as he transmitted his voice, saying, "I am at my wit's end." From the very beginning, Duandong River has favored Luo Feng, and now, Luo Feng is the first to reach the requirements of Rhinoceros Emperor game. The fast will only get faster. If this continues, he will be in an even more advantageous position. By that time, no matter how eager we are to obtain that inheritance, our chances will be greatly reduced. Dear Bug Master, how about we kill Luo Feng? Yes, dear Bug Master, we shall kill him. Even if we were to be annihilated by Duandong River, we must also kill Luo Feng and destroy the slightest chance that he and the human race have. Dear Bug Master had another take on the matter. No rush, he said. Regarding this matter, we are not the only anxious ones. East Emperor Holy Land is equally uptight about it. The most anxious ones, though, are from the first reincarnation era. With their doomsday drawing near, if Luo Feng manages to seize this inheritance, that would be the same as destroying their chance of transcending their first reincarnation era. They will act to prevent him from succeeding. Besides, from how I see it, breaking open that Shadow Palace is no easy feat. All groups of top powers were secretly transmitting while pondering their best course of action. Duandong River showed indifference as he looked down at them, continuing to say, "The human Milky Way is now under the guardianship of my secret technique. No matter how you all attack, it will be impossible to break down the protection to hurt him. So it is better not to court your own doom. Comprehending Rhinoceros Emperor game is a long process. Continue to work hard. The more stages you comprehend, the greater your chance of receiving the inheritance. If anyone can decode up to the 6000 the stage, you can receive the inheritance from a pulse on my Duandong River right away." Duandong River scanned everyone beneath him. Everyone seemed peaceful. This requirement of passing the 6000th stage was one that Duandong River would repeat for every batch of candidates. Newcomers were very passionate when they first arrived, but as they started to comprehend, they realized that the difficulty level of comprehending 6000 stages was unbelievably difficult. One could only dream. 6000 stages? Second True Master sighed. How difficult would that be? I have only comprehended up to the 1005th stage, now. 7th True Master is still stuck at the bottleneck of the 1000th stage. Every 1000 stages is a great leap in level of profundity. This 1001st to the 2000th stage would be even more difficult to understand. I don't know what the lowest baseline is. I have comprehended up to the 1005th stage, which is already the highest among all of my Divine Eye clan, but still not enough to meet Duandong River's baseline requirement. Yet, Luo Feng has met that demand. Could it be that Luo Feng has comprehended more than I have? Or are the demands different for Universe Masters and Universe Supreme Masters? Duandong River looked towards Luo Feng and said, "Human Milky Way, the number of stages you have decoded so far has barely reached my baseline requirement. Continue working harder. The more you decode, the better it will be for you." "Yes, Lord Duandong River." Luo Feng gave a slight bow. Duandong River nodded. Then he vanished right away. Thereafter, there was an uproar within the entire life and death corridor. Everyone started to discuss the situation. Luo Feng surveyed his surroundings and saw quite a few great beings throwing looks of resentment, enmity, murderous intentions, and the like in his direction. He could not hold back a grin as he said, "Want to kill me? Come on, I will not retaliate. Just like before, I will let you all attack within fighting back at all. Detestable. What arrogance. Bastard." Quite a few great beings from the top powers gritted their teeth out of a sense of helplessness. Previously, they still dared to attack, but now, Duan Dong River had made it clear that the moment they attacked, they would be eliminated and then exterminated. Moreover, Duan Dong River had vowed solemnly that, under the guardianship of that shadow, no great being present would be able to break through it. Ha ha, Luo Feng laughed as his gaze swept over every universe master that had attacked him before. The provocation in his eyes was blatant. This made the universe masters even more furious. But they knew that Luo Feng was doing all this intentionally. If they really did attack, they would be falling into his trap. Previously, they attacked me so brazenly. Now, they are scared. Luo Feng shook his head. Being under the watchful eyes of close to 10,000 life forms of various clans from the 3 great reincarnation eras and the 2 holy lands. He sighed. How ridiculous this is. My time is too precious to waste it on all you. I am going to continue comprehending. This inheritance, I am determined to make it mine. With that, Luo Feng sat down cross-legged and resumed his silent comprehension. The hazy golden shadow palace enshrouded Luo Feng as though it were a gigantic canopy. The great beings from various clans, especially the ones from the first reincarnation era and the 2 holy lands, had moved nearer to the shadow palace to feel it more thoroughly, and they all felt an aura that made them tremble in fright. Unquestionably, this guardianship by a secret technique was so terrifying that universe masters who had yet to act had already lost all confidence. They were all anxious and furious, but there was nothing they could do. This made them hate Luo Feng even more. Depriving our clan of the chance of transcending reincarnation. Detestable. You should go and die. One by one, their eyes glared at Luo Feng. Luo Feng swept his surroundings and grinned and closed his eyes. He could not be bothered with them. He had become a target of public criticism, nothing new to him. Since Duan Dong River's outright display of special attention toward Luo Feng, groups of top powers had been surrounding him with attacks. Since things had already gotten ugly, there would be no need to bother himself with them. The real opportunity was right before him. He had to march fearlessly onward without flinching. There was no need to bother so much. This inheritance will belong to no one else but me, Luo Feng. Are you all angry? Threatening me? Threaten as you please. I, Luo Feng, fear you not. I shall do my very best to comprehend this Rhinoceros Emperor game as fast as I can. Then I will get a hold of the inheritance this time. In the virtual universe, shrouded by a winding haze, stood many stone pillars with 3-dimensional virtual shadows. Luo Feng stood before the 3-dimensional virtual shadow on the 1001st endgame, pondering. Not too far from him, a man dressed in a white robe was looking at the 2001st endgame. Luo Feng. Luo Feng. Ha ha ha. Such great news, yet you did not tell us. Suddenly, a few figures appeared from not too far away. It was Huge Axe Creator and Primal Chaos City Leader, the leaders of great beings from the human race. There were also Darkness Master, Ice Mountain Master, Remote Lord Master, and Long Yang Master. All of them wore happy expressions. Luo Feng stood up to welcome them. We just heard. Huge Axe Creator was laughing heartily, and his voice was gleeful. You actually met Duan Dong River's expectations. You are the first to achieve this. It is always said that the fast get faster. With the passage of time, you will get to an even more advantageous position. You are the most hopeful candidate for the inheritance this time. You should not bother with anything else. Do not fret about the threats from the other groups of powers. At most, we humans can just remain in the primal universe. Ha ha. With this inheritance, it will be possible for the human race to transcend the 2 holy lands in the future. Even though I have never heard of this, why else would the 2 holy lands be so fixated over this inheritance? That's right. Primal Chaos City Leader nodded, too. Let's not bother ourselves with the rest. We should focus on seizing that inheritance. Yes, teacher. Luo Feng also nodded. With a grin, he said, there is nothing I can do even if they were to create disturbances now. Good, 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 Huge Axe said. We shall not bother you further. Go on with your comprehending. We are just here to congratulate you. Darkness Master also gave him a rare smile. This is humanity's greatest opportunity. Such an opportunity is hard to come by, probably one in several hundreds and thousands of reincarnation eras. It would be a sin to let it pass through our fingers. We shall pin our hopes on you. Remote Lord Master shouted. Ice Mountain Master, who stood to the side, also gave words of encouragement. The group of great beings was talking to Luo Feng. Yet all of them, including Luo Feng, were oblivious to the presence of a man in a white robe, standing a short distance away, watching them in silence. The man in white robe gently shook his head with a sigh. They have to fight on for all of humanity, which depended on them for everything, and I could only watch on helplessly. For countless years, he had observed how humanity had met with various dangers, but there was nothing he could do because he was eternally suppressed. There was no way out for him. And because of this, he, Teacher Origin, might have gone to various places and even attended the Human Races Conferences or the Hong Alliance's conferences. Yet not a single being knew he was there. The virtual universe. He was its owner. In the virtual universe, he was omnipotent. Luo Feng, continue to do your best, the man in white robe whispered. No matter how powerful he was, the fight against the primal universe Origin had left him with many afterthoughts. The time that had gone by since he had been eternally suppressed had made him stronger and more powerful. Now, he was even fully confident of being able to break through a reincarnation era. Yet all was too late. Being eternally suppressed, there was nothing more he could do. Primal universe, I am not ready to bow my retreat yet. Never. So long as there is a trace of a chance, I will fight to the very end. A fearsome glint flashed through his eyes as the man in the white robe redirected his attention to studying and comprehending the Rhinoceros Emperor game in silence. As time passed, things got peaceful and quiet within the life and death corridor of the Boat of Mausoleum. Every group of power gathered to study the Rhinoceros Emperor game. Since Luo Feng had met Duan Dong River's expectations, naturally, he was more at ease. He had decided to change his method of comprehending. For the past 500 years, he had been comprehending diligently, yet the more he studied, the more he realized that the Rhinoceros Emperor game and secret techniques had a common point. Previously, Luo Feng had been doing all he could to decode the game. Thus, he did not dare to try, but now. Luo Feng had decided that 80% of the time, he would spend on studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game, and the remaining 20% would be spent on studying the secret technique hidden within the secret space in the Ninth Abyss. Secret technique and Rhinoceros Emperor game were in contrast with one another. An important thing to know, traveling from the Ninth Abyss to the space of the black-striped stone pillars would take a few hundred years. From the space of the black-striped stone pillars to Flame Ice region would also take a few hundred years. Especially when the time velocity over at the space of the black-striped stone pillars was 3,000 times, which meant that he had already spent an extremely long time studying the diagram of secret engravings and had long finished cultivation of the 7th stage of Beast God Path, even to the extent of nearing completion. Luo Feng had paused his cultivation of the Beast God Path because he was nearing complete cultivation. But the moment he completed it, perhaps he would be able to become a universe master. The pair of white wings that he badly wanted. He needed to be a universe knight to own it. He needed to receive Duan Dong River's inheritance. The identity of a universe knight would add to his advantage. As for the laws, Luo Feng had stopped cultivating them. His achievement in secret techniques had reached the pinnacle level of universe masters where he had created 6 types of strongest secret techniques. He was near to creating a combination of his strongest secret techniques. I will spend 80% of my time studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game. I will spend the remaining 20% of the time studying secret techniques. Perhaps, when I compare and contrast them both, my speed of comprehension will get much faster. And I can occasionally take some time to continue honing my willpower. Up until today, my willpower is unable to break through the level of a Universe Supreme Master. If my willpower can evolve up to a new level, my studies on secret techniques may get even faster. All the top great beings in Universe Ocean knew how important that powerful inheritance from the ancient civilization was. They were all looking forward to great beings from their side satisfying the requirements for solving the Rhinoceros Emperor game. At this moment, the life or death corridor inside Universe Boat in the Boat of Mausoleum in Flame Ice region was the most important silent battlefield in Universe Ocean. The inheritance of Duan Dong River might be able to decide which power was able to transcend incarnations and become another holy land. Luo Feng is only at an advantage temporarily. We still have a chance. That's right. As long as we can meet the basic requirement in that certain period of time, we'll have the chance to receive an inheritance. We need to grasp the opportunity. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. We'll risk our lives for it. All the powers had gone mad. They didn't think of getting the inheritance immediately in a short period of time. It was unrealistic. Instead, they wanted to meet the basic requirements for rhinoceros to have a chance of getting an inheritance. As long as there was a chance, there was a possibility. The familiar voice came in the quiet life or death corridor again. Everyone, including Luo Feng, who was covered by the palace giving out blurry light, looked up. They saw a figure. Duandong River. Duandong River has shown up again. Everyone was excited. Luo Feng looked at the figure, frowning. He had met the requirements already, so Duandong River hadn't shown up for him. Blue blood from Eastern Emperor Holy Land has met the requirements, Duandong River said, looking down at a handsome man from Eastern Emperor Holy Land. There were leaves and vines around his body. He couldn't help being excited. All the great beings looked at him. Luo Feng also noticed the great being, blue blood from Eastern Emperor Holy Land. He frowned. He is a universe knight? I'm a universe knight, and the second one who met the basic requirements is also a universe knight. He could tell the power of this universe knight. Within Eastern Emperor Holy Land, universe masters stood in the front, followed by universe knights, while undying fighters were protected, standing at the back. Besides, blue blood didn't have strong godly power. He was only a universe knight with a life gene level of 1,000 times. A universe knight? A universe knight meets the requirements after the human Milky Way. There are 7 universe supreme masters and almost 200 universe masters here. That Milky Way horde leader is a peerless universe master, yet this universe knight is only a mediocre one. Even he succeeded? How so? Everyone was shocked. Duandong River pointed to the indistinct figure beside Blue Blood Knight, and the blurry palace covered Blue Blood Knight, too. The palace was golden. It was the same as the one protecting Luo Feng. Keep comprehending. Duandong River smiled. The more you solve the puzzles, the more beneficial it's going to be for you. Keep comprehending and don't worry about others. You have my techniques to protect you, so nobody can hurt you. I've set the rules already. Duandong River glanced around the great beings present. Everyone who satisfies the requirements will be protected by me. Anyone who dares to make attacks against them will be eliminated and killed. Blue blood, keep going, Duandong Master encouraged him. Okay, Master Duandong, said Blue Blood Knight. Duandong River disappeared. A universe knight is taking the lead. Second True Master was furious. Did he actually solve the puzzles faster than me? A universe knight is taking the lead. Many were infuriated. On the contrary, great beings from Eastern Emperor Holy Land were all excited, especially Blue Blood Knight. He even glanced at Luo Feng. Apparently, he wanted to compete with Luo Feng. Luo Feng took a look and thought, I'm the first one to meet the requirements. However, I'm only at an advantage by a small margin. Duandong River will look at lots of other aspects if he wants to find a candidate. I need to solve more puzzles. According to Duandong River, the more puzzles someone solves, the more likely they will get an inheritance. So much pressure. The human race had placed their hope in him. He was already at an advantage, so he couldn't let up. Universe Ocean, Eastern Emperor Holy Land. Blue blood? Blue blood met the requirements. We sent a large group of universe masters, universe knights, and undying fighters. Yuzon should be the one solving the puzzles fastest, as he had solved 1,200 of them, yet he still hasn't met the requirements. Blue blood just finished the 1,000th one, but he's already met the requirements. There were hundreds of universe masters and several universe supreme masters in a hall. A blurry green light showed up in the sky above the palace. Ancestor. Ancestor. All the great beings bowed. The blurry light looked down and said, it seems that Duandong River has different requirements for great beings of different power levels. Tell the undying fighters and universe knights from our race to work harder so that more of them can meet the requirements. Yes. Yes. The green light disappeared. The great beings looked at each other, and they were all shocked. The ancestor of Eastern Emperor Holy Land rarely showed up. However, not only did he send a great number of great beings to Duandong River, he showed up in the palace, which showed how much Eastern Emperor Ancestor valued the inheritance. Though Blue Blood Knight was only a universe knight, he was a universe master to be, and his willpower was at universe supreme master level. He can solve the puzzles very quickly. We should have sent more universe master to be there. That's right. We should have sent more universe masters to be. Universe masters to be were special universe knights. Eastern Emperor Holy Land had existed for an infinite amount of time. If there were 10 Universe Masters born in every universe era, there would be more than 10,000 Universe Masters. Why were there only a few Universe Masters? Because the Holy Land couldn't contain that many Universe Masters, just like a patch of Earth could only nurture a certain number of plants. If there were too many plants, the land wouldn't be able to withstand them all. A miniature universe couldn't nurture Universe Supreme Masters. It could only birth Universe Masters. Also, a small universe couldn't hold an unlimited number of Universe Masters. Every Universe Master was a huge burden to a small universe, and when it hit the limit, the number couldn't increase. Otherwise, it would be harmful to the Holy Land itself. Which was why some Universe Knights, who had already finished law comprehension and could become a Universe Master at any time, couldn't get any godly power from the Holy Land universe origin. When a Universe Master died, one of the Universe Masters to be would be selected to become a Universe Master. They had lived for a long time, some of them had lived for more than 100 universe eras, which was why they had extremely powerful will. The 800th year after Luo Feng began studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game, Duan Dong River showed up again. Remote snow from the second universe era has met the requirement. Duan Dong River looked down and stared at a candidate from Bug Race. What? An undying fighter? Only an undying fighter? Even undying fighters can meet the requirement? Everyone was shocked that the third one to meet the requirements was an undying fighter of the Bug Race from the second universe era. Duan Dong River pointed at remote snow, and suddenly, a blurry palace surrounded remote snow. Time flew. One candidate after another met the requirements, and soon, the powers understood that there were different levels of requirements for great beings of different power levels, as none of the 7 Universe Supreme Masters met the requirements. The first one was Luo Feng. The second one was a Universe Knight. The third one was Undying. The fourth one was Undying. The fifth one was a Universe Master, Yuzon from Eastern Emperor Holy Land. And up until then, 2 from Eastern Emperor Holy Land had met the requirements. It had been 1,100 years since Luo Feng had met the requirements. The 6th one was a Universe Knight. The 7th one was a Universe Master. And he was Luo Feng's acquaintance, Dear Bug Master. Almost 3,000 years passed. In the life or death corridor, one blurry palace after another covered the candidates who made the cut. 62 candidates had met the requirements. In fact, from the 2000th year onward, many candidates met the requirements. For example, Peng Gong Master had met the requirements already. Yet none of the 7 Universe Supreme Masters had met the requirements. Duan Dong Master showed up again. It was common for Duan Dong Master to show up. Everyone looked up to see which power had met the requirements. Tai Bu Demon Master from the first universe era has met the requirements, said Duan Dong River. All 7 Universe Supreme Masters in the life or death corridor shuddered. Finally, the Universe Supreme Master has met the requirements. All the great beings looked to him. It was too harsh. Finally, the Universe Supreme Master succeeded. Those Universe Supreme Masters felt both excited and despondent. Nearly 3,000 years. One great being after another who was weaker than them had succeeded, yet none of the 7 Universe Supreme Masters had succeeded. They thought there was no hope for Universe Supreme Masters. Finally, Tai Bu Demon Master had succeeded. 63rd. Universe Supreme Masters need to solve 2,000 puzzles. Tai Bu Demon Master had strong mixed feelings. The 64th one. The 65th one. The other candidates in the life and death corridor might have been slower in speed of comprehending the Rhinoceros Emperor game, but with the passing of time, the number of great beings reaching Duan Dong River's expectation was increasing at an alarming rate. One by one, golden shadow palaces were appearing within the life and death corridor. There were already many of these scattered all over the place. Candidates within the life and death corridor would occasionally carry out discussions secretly via voice transmissions. The time given to decoding the Rhinoceros Emperor game is unexpectedly long. From the looks of it, Duan Dong River is intent on gathering more candidates for his heir. The number is now close to 70. True. After all, an heir not only requires the ability to comprehend. There are other areas to consider. Even if Luo Feng may be at a slight advantage now, it is no cause for worry. Our East Emperor Holy Land already has 9 who have met the baseline requirement. Moving forward, we will gain an even greater advantage. After all, studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game was an extremely tedious and difficult process. It was almost like a continuous soul attack, which was why, based on the difference in their willpower, most of these great beings would take a break from time to time, although the length of time taken for their breaks varied. Within the virtual universe, there are 69 who have already met the expectation. Primal Chaos City leader, who was seldom worried, started to show traces of anxiety. And the more time that passes, I believe the number of candidates will also increase. Given this rate of development, Luo Feng's advantage will gradually shrink. What should we do? We want to get hold of the inheritance, yet our chances are continuously lessening. 8 Universe Masters and huge axe creator had gathered. The 8 Universe Masters were all high-level leading figures of the human race, like Darkness Master, Void Gold Master, Deserted Mirror Master, and Qingdong Master. Although they were all at different places, be it Tilted Peak Sector or Universe Boat, and not at the Boat of Mausoleum, they were constantly concerned about everything happening at the Boat of Mausoleum. Everyone knew that this round of inheritance was a silent battle. This battle would determine who could transcend the reincarnation era and determine the owner of the Third Holy Land universe. Stop getting frustrated over this. Huge Axe Creator laughed heartily and added, "It is pointless for us to fret over this. Let Luo Feng comprehend at his leisure. As for us, let's take our minds off this by going on other adventures and roaming elsewhere. If we simply stare on aimlessly, what if this inheritance lasts for 10,000 years, or even longer?" True. But all right, all of you should get back now, Huge Axe Creator said with a wave. Among the individual planes, with fog winding around them, there were many stone pillars, and every one of them bore a three-dimensional virtual shadow. Luo Feng and the man in the white robe, Teacher Origin, were in the same space, but of course, Luo Feng was not the least bit aware of Teacher Origin's presence. The first 2,000 stages are so tough. Luo Feng was standing before the three-dimensional virtual shadow of the 2000th endgame. It had been 3,000 years, and during this long period of time, there were other candidates who had subsequently managed to meet the baseline requirements. This had definitely dealt him a certain amount of pressure, and he also started to understand Duandong River's intentions. Apparently, Duandong River did not wish to place all his bets on Luo Feng for the time being. This round of inheritance. Since I am already in the lead, I must work things to my advantage and make this inheritance mine. Luo Feng was very resolute. Since I started studying secret techniques and Rhinoceros Emperor game through a compare and contrast method, my speed of comprehension has obviously become much faster. After he had decoded the 1000th endgame, he had started a new studying method. 80% of his time was spent studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game, while 20% of his time was spent on studying the secret technique of the 9th Deep Abyss, with occasional sessions put aside for honing his willpower. Indeed, according to the feeling he had, the secret techniques and the Rhinoceros Emperor game did share a common point. Upon comparing and contrasting the two, Luo Feng was able to gain more understanding, thus increasing his speed of comprehension. The previous 1000 stages took him 500 years. If he went by his normal speed, then to successfully decode the first 2000 stages, he would need a time period that was 10 times longer or even more. Yet now, he only took 500 years, which was 5 times the original time to quickly succeed in decoding the first 2000 stages. Seems like this Luo Feng. The man in white robes looked toward Luo Feng from a short distance away, smiling as he nodded in approval. Soon, he will be able to finish decoding the first 2000 stages. Given his comprehension, his fundamentals, to be able to create a combination of strongest techniques will not be difficult for him at all. How impressive! The man in white robe was full of compliments for Luo Feng. Probably most of the other candidates within the life and death corridor did not know this, but Teacher Origin, upon spending 3,000 years studying Rhinoceros Emperor game, after adding on 10,000 times of accelerated time velocity, which would make it 30 million years, had come to know more than them. Rhinoceros Emperor game was highly demanding on one's ability to comprehend. Was highly demanding on one's ability to deduce. In short, if one was able to understand the Rhinoceros Emperor game in depth, then the law of comprehension, law of studies, and creating secret techniques and such would no longer be difficult tasks. From the looks of it, most of the candidates had now managed to break through and meet the baseline requirements, but that was merely the first bottleneck. The bottleneck for undying godly souls, the first 500 stages. The bottleneck for Universe Knights, the first 1000 stages. The bottleneck for Universe Masters, the first 1500 stages. The bottleneck for Universe Supreme Masters, the first 2000 stages. Great beings with high aptitude would have no difficulty breaking through the first bottleneck if given sufficient time, just like how every universe supreme master is able to find a path that is unique to him, to create his own miniature universe. Universe supreme masters have strangely high abilities to comprehend. So long as enough time is given, every single one of them will be able to decode the first 2,000 stages. The man in white robe was aware of this point. Yet that was only the first bottleneck. The second bottleneck requires a length of time that is calculated in multiples of 10. Every period of time required would be calculated in terms of 10 times. Or when moving forward, it might be impossible to achieve a breakthrough no matter how much time is used up. For instance, a universe master who was studying the 1998th stage. He was unable to decode that stage. Then given 10,000 years, 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, or even to the extent of one reincarnation era, he might never be able to decode that stage. Because he had reached his limit. Unless his basic ability to comprehend underwent a fundamental change. This Luo Feng passed the first bottleneck so easily. Now, he has already reached the second bottleneck. The man in white robe nodded quietly. And, at such a fast speed, obviously this is still far from his limit. Indeed. Indeed, he is the most hopeful one in becoming the next Universe Supreme Master. If he manages to get Duandong River's inheritance this time, I believe there is a great possibility of him transcending a reincarnation era in the future. The man in white robe could not hold back a smile. All these years, he had been here studying Rhinoceros Emperor game, so every move Luo Feng made did not escape his eye. And which virtual shadow Luo Feng often studied was no secret to him either. He was very clear of the rate at which Luo Feng was improving. Luo Feng had accepted the inheritance for over 3,000 years. There was dead silence in the life and death corridor as numerous golden shadow palaces were scattered about randomly. There was also an ocean of candidates surrounding these shadow palaces. These golden shadow palaces represented the great beings who had met the baseline requirements. A familiar sound rang and resonated deep within every great being. All the great beings raised their heads. Must be the 70th one now. The 70th one to meet the expectations. Who can that be? It must be from our primal universe, right? It can't always be the first reincarnation era and two holy lands. Must be from our second reincarnation era. One by one, everyone was silently speculating. Apparently, great beings from the two holy lands and first reincarnation era had dominated a majority of the candidates who had passed the baseline requirements. The second reincarnation era and primal universe were on the losing end, with fewer representatives. I am delighted. Duandong River's voice sounded. What? Every great being felt a tremor rumbling through their hearts. Even those few who were sidetracked studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game had to stop for the time being to look up. Delighted? Duandong River was delighted? Such an event was unprecedented. Duandong River, suspended in midair, was smiling as he looked down at the dense crowd of close to 100,000 great beings from various clans looking up at him expectantly. Duandong River announced with a smile, human form Milky Way has broken through the second bottleneck and reached a whole new level. An uproar surged. Everyone turned to look at Milky Way Horde leader, Luo Feng, who had almost been forgotten throughout the long years. Rise! Duandong River pointed afar. At that moment, a crystal pillar appeared with a karkaka sound from the ground beside Luo Feng. When that crystal pillar had fully emerged, its surface started to radiate a dazzling red light. The hazy red light converged with the golden light ray palace from before, and then, the entire light ray palace dazzled with two hues of lights, red and golden. The golden red palace enshrouded Luo Feng. Luo Feng was also slightly taken aback. This was the differential treatment for someone who had met the requirement? Right. He had just decoded the 2000th stage, but still. Luo Feng was shocked. The other groups were even more shocked, and all found it hard to understand. Originally, they had thought that even after meeting the requirement, everything would maintain the status quo. But from the looks of it, everything was different. I have said before. Duandong River looked at all the shocked expressions of the candidates and said, the more stages decoded, the more advantages gained, and this will bring more benefits when accepting the inheritance. All of you have passed the first bottleneck and are considered to have met my baseline requirement. Of course, that is merely a baseline requirement. If you can't even meet that, then you certainly have no right to advance. As for breaking through the second bottleneck, like the human Milky Way, Du and Dong River started to elaborate. Even for all of you candidates, you all can be categorized into 4 different levels. Let me come up with 4 names for these 4 levels. They will be the peripheral candidates, elite candidates, core candidates, and heirs. Those who have previously met the requirements are merely considered the peripherals. Those like the human Milky Way will be considered as elites. 1 level up will be the core. And further up by 1 more level, one becomes an heir. Then there is no further need to compete further. I, Du and Dong River, will hand over my inheritance right away. Du and Dong River look toward the 7 Universe Supreme Masters. The 7 of you have long ago bred your own miniature universes. All of you have very strong powers, so naturally, you all have to deal with a higher bottleneck. For you all, so long as you can decode up to the 6,000th stage, you can obtain the inheritance right away. Of course, I guess that the possibility of any one of you who wish to break through and reach the 4th bottleneck to become an heir within my expected timeline, or to directly move on to decoding the 6,000th endgame is extremely, awfully low. Which is why you all have to work even harder at decoding. Those who have decoded more. At different levels, the inheritance that you all get in contact with later on will also differ. For instance, now, the chances that human form Milky Way have to obtain the inheritance is greater than you all by 10 times or even 100 times. Unless you all achieve your breakthrough to the 2nd bottleneck soon as well. Work hard. Silence. Every great being present understood. So, this was how it would be. The number of stages decoded, more or less, really did make much of a difference, and a very fundamental one, too. Decoding more would even enable one to directly gain the inheritance without having to progress through all 4 levels. And then, all the other great beings would be considered to have failed and be eliminated. The 1st bottleneck, the 2nd bottleneck, the 3rd bottleneck, the 4th bottleneck. If one could not even make it past the 1st bottleneck, then elimination was the only result. Elimination, in other words, meant annihilation. This sent everyone into a state of discrete anxiety. Especially knowing that Luo Feng had broken through the 2nd bottleneck. They were left in solicitude. The 2nd bottleneck? Luo Feng quickly quelled his heightened emotions and started to think calmly. The 1st bottleneck is the first 1,000 stages, the 2nd bottleneck is the first 2,000 stages, could it be the 3rd bottleneck is the first 3,000 stages? That means, breaking through the first 4,000 stages, I can become an heir right away. This video will end here.